She was having to make. Oh, hold on, we're live. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Sunday night episode of Darknite Radio. I'm one co-host of the show, Mr. Dwayne Holmes. Of course, I do have Sherika here with me as well, hiding in the background,
Ghost
There we
mode.
go.
ghosting
Hi.
y'all. No pun intended. And then, of course, Miss Lauren.
Hey guys.
Uh, And without further ado, we do welcome back Mr. Rick Waid to Darknite Radio. It has been some time.
It has been a while.
So if you will, Rick, just take a minute and tell everybody who you are and give them your spiel. Of,
For those
There you
that
are.
don't know,
Okay. Well, I started normal.
you're choppy, my friend.
And you have a lot of really loud stuff. It's like so loud.
Is that better?
Yep, it's a lot better. They get like background noise, running water.
Running water background noise?
Yeah.
I hear it too. I don't know what it is though.
oh, hold on.
Erica's air conditioner.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's what that is.
That's what it was. Now you can burn up.
That won't be too bad.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
I hear you.
Cool. All right, so you want me to get started?
Yes, sir.
All right. First of all, like I said, I started in the paranormal about 16 years ago. My wife decided to record this show called The Ghost Hunters, and I really got addicted to it. I started watching it. I was excited about it. Every time they came on, I was like glued to the TV. And then, one day my son come down and said, "Hey, let's go check out this old house down at the end of the road." So I ended up going down there with him, and it was a creepy old house, but it was all boarded up. You couldn't get inside. All the doors were locked. There was shutters on the second windows. And then I walked around the right side of the house, came back around the left side of the house, and I looked up and I seen this shutter door that was open. And I tried to act like, I said, "Hey, if there's any spirits here, close that door." And I'd be darned, man, if it didn't close right for me.
Wow.
And what's interesting was nobody was around to witness it, right? But I went out front and I told everybody, and they're like, whatever, it didn't happen. I went home and got my video camera, and I wasn't good with video cameras, but my son-in-law was with me, and he said, "Turn it on night vision, we'll be able to see it better." So we're driving up slowly, and the shutter door's still closed. I thought it might have been open, but it was actually closed. So I pull in the driveway, and I started walking slowly toward the house, and I said, "If there's any spirits here, open the door up." And then open up after my second time asking.
Wow.
And you can hear that creaky sound. And that made it in Unexplained Caught on Camera. They actually featured my story on Unexplained Caught on Camera last, which is actually wonderful. And I was episode 9. I was on Unexplained Caught on Camera, and it was pretty awesome, man. They took as much footage and much videos and much pictures that I had, and they really made a nice story. So if anybody's interested, it's episode 9 from last year's from Unexplained Caught on Camera. But the thing is what's interesting is, though, I started my journey, and it got to a point where I was really getting obsessed. My whole life was paranormal. I ate, drank, sleep, everything paranormal. Point where I almost lost my wife, almost lost my job. It was bad. I was ignoring everybody because I wanted to understand the paranormal. And I'm telling you, I put 110% in the paranormal, started getting things back. Things started happening for me. Doors started opening. I started hearing walking. I started hearing voices. It was to a point where, check this out, I was in a house. I'm sitting here by myself at my video camera. I'm videotaping. And it's just an old abandoned house. But I was sitting there, and all of a sudden, I heard somebody outside run around the house. Oh, my God. caught. And I was scared and nervous. I'm on private property. I didn't get it permission. Shame on me, right?
Right.
So I was there, and all of a sudden I hear this person run around the house, come toward the back door, and I'm freaking out, right? Nobody came in. I walked toward the door, walked around the house. There was nobody around. It was like I was capturing, energy from the past. It was like revamping or, actually in. So it was really, really cool. And in that house, I would get actual people would say, spirits would say, I'd say, have a good night. And they say, you too, sir. Or they say, good night. I mean, I could hear this out of my ear, and I was capturing it on audio. So the more time I spent there, the more they actually would communicate with me. So it was really a really interesting time. But then later on, I ended up taking an actual radio station with me to the house. And we had a bunch of people, man. We had hearses. We all rode around the hearse. It was for Halloween, man. We all rode around.
That's cool.
They were actually videotaping it and everything. And we get to the house, but the two people that actually was doing the hearse, they were really naughty. They were kind of mean. And what they did, they were breaking things in the house. No. You don't do that. They were breaking the table. And it got to the point where we was actually playing with the Ouija board. And back then, I didn't know anything about Ouija boards. I was just playing with the actual TV station or with the radio station. And all of a sudden, the wind picked up. Really, really strong wind. And blew the window. One of the windows right at one of those guys. Where to God. Blew the window right at him. I mean, glass flew everywhere. And we all exited the house right away. But they did not want to be that way.
You know when the last time it rained was?
So they didn't want to. Okay, that's okay. It's just family, man. Family. Yeah. We all had fun. So, hello. So anyway, so that night ended with amazing stuff. I still capture some amazing stuff. But I never, ever brought anybody back to the house again because of how people just, they don't respect, private property like that. I came there and I was quiet. I was kind. I was polite.
Right.
And there's another story that happened in there. It's really amazing. It's in my first book. There was an old wooden crate that was inside the kitchen. And I was sitting up one night filming the living room. And all of a sudden, the crate broke and I fell to the ground. And I was freaked out by it. So I got up and I left. But I fell right to the ground. I have the videotape, me falling to the ground. So I left. I come back a couple of days later. I went in the kitchen, and guess what? There was no crate. I walked around the house, and in the bedroom was the crate. And there was nothing wrong with it. It wasn't broke or anything.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that kind of cool?
That is.
Pretty crazy.
So,
Wow.
yeah, so, things happen. I think what it was I was giving them attention. The more attention I gave them, the more they gave me. And that's what was happening with the journey.
Hey,
Hey,
Yeah.
hello.
sorry I'm late.
You're good.
I don't charge extra. No.
And they're probably excited because they're like, hey, this person sees me or hears me and is paying
Of course I
attention to
can't
me.
hear. Can anybody hear me?
So,
Yeah.
Oh, we can hear you.
Yeah, we had a house like that. It's actually in the little town that me and Dwayne live in. And back in the day, back when our town was like a popular mining town, there was actually a brothel that sat on that piece of land. And then, years later, they built the house, but we had access to the house anytime we wanted it. And so we went there a lot.
Whoa. Sorry.
And we got amazing
Okay, turn the phone up.
kind of like what you were saying, the more that we investigated it and got to spend our time getting to know the spirits and their stories, the more they would communicate with us and the better evidence they would give us. It was really awesome.
And that is an amazing thing. But they're like people that are here now. You know what I mean? If you're kind, be kind back. And one thing was interesting when I first started getting my real upset normal, it was because of the audio. I started getting EVPs, and it got to a point where I was getting honestly 30 to 40 EVPs in every minute. I was getting that many EVPs.
Wow.
It was the point where it was actually taking over. I would listen to the audio. And what was interesting about these EVPs, I learned so much about EVPs doing this. I would play the audio and it would say, You know, I would say, I killed the 3 boys, right? And then I would actually reverse it. I would reverse the audio. And then the audio would say, it would say something like, like the first one said, I killed the 3 kids. And on the reverse, it would say something like, you know, I'm John the killer. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I can't hear it.
And that's interesting because EVP, if they're a real EVP, you can hear something different in reverse. If
Yeah.
they're a human talking, you're not going to hear it. But if a spirit is talking, you can reverse it and hear something that actually connects with the original EVP that was on the other side. Also, there's another thing about EVPs a lot of people don't know. I set 3 recorders up whenever I use session. I would set 3 recorders up, set them all at the same time, and then I would leave.
Okay, sound.
I would leave a place, and then what would happen is a couple hours later I'd come back and I'd play those 3 audios at the same time. And on the first audio, I would get a little girl saying, "I'm scared." The second audio, at the exact same time, a man would come on and say, "My name is Steven." And then on the third audio, a female would come on and say, "I'm lonely," or something. I would get 3 different EVPs at the same time by 3 different spirits on each group.
Wow. Yeah, some of our best EVPs has actually been when we weren't even talking directly to the spirit. Like we was just having a conversation amongst ourselves, and they'll just come right up and talk while we're standing there having a conversation with each other.
And this is what a lot of paranormal investigators says, no, you got to throw that out. You got to throw that out. You're talking in it. No, you don't have to throw that audio out. If you're videotaping and you're watching and videotaping, watching the conversation, you will be able to see that, hey, Tim did not say, Diane. Nobody said Diane. So that evidence is still there. You can't throw out stuff like that. And I try to tell these guys, no, you can't do that. Like I'll play audio. I hear things. I hear spirits talking in a conversation with other people. I can hear them talking. They're communicating.
Me too.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's an amazing experience, but most people are like, no, you got to throw it out. You got to throw it out. No, you don't have to throw it out. If you have video evidence, you can still use that because, hey, you filmed it. Nobody said that. And then what's interesting about my is I will go in a haunted location. I will sense things. I will say, I hear the spirit say, take off your shoes. I just heard the spirit say, take off your shoes. And everybody be like, what? I didn't hear nothing. Then I'll play the recorder back and it will say on there, take off your shoes.
Dude, that is Dwayne, like to a T. And we'll be walking, like if we're investigating, then he'll be like, wait, did y'all hear that? And we'll be like, no. And he'll be like, it just said this. And we're like, no, we didn't hear that. And we'll listen back and it'll be on there. And we're up. So, I don't know how he does it, but he can hear them.
Like, it don't matter. Like, we can be standing there. We can be walking down the hall. We can be standing there talking, walking down the hall. And I'll hear them. And I'll tell them, I'll be like, did y'all hear that? I just heard it say this. And they're like, no, I'm going to play that recorder back. Let's listen to it. They play the recorder back. Every time it's on there, like they caught it.
And the thing is, I think certain people hear certain frequencies. Okay, let me explain that too. I used to do testing for people. I used to bring in paranormal investigators in a room. I'd have a room, a paranormal investigator, and a couple psychic or a couple mediums. And what I would do is I would capture an audio in one of the haunted locations. I would bring the audio back because I'm hearing the actual spirit talk. Okay, so I would get a little boy say, I was murdered. I could hear I was murdered by a little boy, okay? And I would play the audio and put it on the loudspeaker so everybody could hear it. And all the paranormal investigator would have an actual pad of paper and pen, and they would actually write down what they heard. Well, I'd go around, I played the audio, and none of the paranormal investigators was hearing anything but static. But then the 2 mediums that were sitting there, they could hear the little boy say, I was murdered. And they wrote down, I was murdered. I wrote down, I was murdered beforehand. That proves to me right there that, gifted people can honestly hear better. They can hear frequency. Spirits come to them, they communicate with them, and that's what it is. So most of these ghost hunters that are out here, they're not really they're ghost hunters. They're not gifted people. So they're not here, their frequencies. And I've tested this on the actual ghost hunter show. I've tested, I used to go, and this is funny, but I used to call places ghost hunters used to go do the
Sorry.
show. Somebody's jamming.
Yeah, you're good. Go ahead.
So anyways, I used to call the ghost hunter places, like say they went and did, let's just say the Bell Mansion, for instance. They did the show, I would call up the Bell Mansion and say, listen, is there any way you could walk through and let me do an audio session? You know what I mean? And I could actually prove to them how much the actual communication was. They never got, let's say for instance, they never got any EVPs. No EVPs for 8 hours of actually being in there. 8 hours, no EVPs. I go there, I do a session, 15 minutes to half an hour, and boom, I have all these EVPs. And the actual owner's like, holy crap, because he can hear them too. You know what I mean? And then there's another thing, EVPs, that people say, well, you made me hear it. You made me hear it. That's not true either, because that's not what it is. A lot of people say, well, you put it in my mind, I'm going to hear it. And I've tested that too with programs and stuff. I would test people and actually do that. And no, I was actually hearing at a lower frequency, like a child at 12 years old. And that's how I was hearing my EVPs. I would test this with kids that are around, or my own kids. And I would say, listen, I'm going to play this for you. Tell me what you hear. And boom, my son was hearing this. And I was hearing the same thing. But when you got a 30-year-old or a 40-year-old, boom, they was hearing nothing but static. And I would even test missing person cases. I would go to the police department and test the same thing. And the older people couldn't hear it, but the younger people could hear it. And it's something more about females too. Females hear it in a different frequency too.
Yeah. We actually had a conversation with another gentleman about different frequencies and stuff. That was on our podcast a while back. So yeah, I definitely, people hear it differently, and it's crazy too, because like me, Sherika, and Lauren, we can all listen to an audio session, and we'll be on there. We all three hear different things. Like, it says this. It says no. It says this. It says this. So I definitely believe in the different audio frequencies and such that we hear it at.
And I think also that spirits can actually send you their own message, so they can take the audio and send it to you. You know what they want to send to you, which is interesting. Also, I was going to say something about the frequency. But if you was to take an actual individual, figure out what frequency you're hearing at, and there's different ages. You know, a 7-year-old will hear different, a 10-year-old will hear different, a 12-year-old. Find out where that frequency is that you're hearing, what you're hearing, and see if that individual is hearing the same thing. That's how you understand what kind of frequency you're hearing, which is kind of so it's kind of neat to test. But I'll tell you what, I did this on police officers, and I'm telling you, a lot of police officers, they don't want to hear. They want you to actually find the shoe of a dead person that died 40 years ago, or a shirt, or a button. They want something they can hold in their hand. They don't want this audio saying, oh, you know, Steven killed me, or John killed me, or, you know what I mean? I don't want that. But I'll tell you another story. I went out to a graveyard, and this young girl was murdered. She was only like, I think 12 years old, 11 or 12 years old. And I wrote about this in my book too. And I went there and I did the audio. I said, can you come through? Can you communicate with me, please? And then I heard this guy's name. This guy killed her. Heard it right on the audio. So I called the sheriff and said, listen, I have this name from audio saying that this person killed this little girl. So he said, you think we could hear? I said, well, I think we can. So he said, well, okay, we'll set up an appointment. So we set up an appointment for Monday. I was scared because, oh, who is this weirdo out here doing all gonna connect with the dad and gonna find that killer, right? So I went to the cop, and the cop couldn't hear nothing, the actual sheriff. But the female cop came in and she heard it. And what's interesting, the name that was on there that's in my book, he ended up being arrested. That same last name, being arrested for the murder of the girl. Not the murder of the girl, but he lied. He lied during the court. He said he was here and he was not here. Okay, so he lied. So he had lied about something. So he did get arrested, but they ended up saying it was not the killer. It was another person. So still,
yeah,
And he heard that name. I knew that name, and he was an officer that worked for him. So that's why he let me go out and actually walk the actual area with the actual.
Man, I'm like you though. I wish more of the police force would use, like the audio evidence,
Or take it at least more
the
serious a little
mediums,
bit.
you know,
You know,
things
I
like that, because there's so many cases, and especially like in the missing persons, I feel like there's a lot of times that if they would just be cooperative with it, they could find them before something bad happens to them. You know, how many lives could that save if they would be open to it?
and the thing is about it, there is some police force out there. Have you ever heard of the Smiley killer? Ever heard of that? Smiley,
Heard of what?
the smiley face killers?
Yes.
Okay, well, years ago when I first started getting a gift, I had the ability to communicate, and I actually worked with the detective and the police officers, the detective and the actual specialist that was working. Okay, I worked with individuals, and they gave me 20 names, and I worked on 20 cases that were missing from the Smiley murder case. And I gave them information. You know what that professor said? He said, you know, I've dealt with a lot of people. I've dealt with psychics, mediums, and everything. But you're different because you give me information that connects A, with me, connects with the actual police force, B, with the family, with the actual victim, too. So it's almost like you're giving me all details connected to the whole case, and you know nothing about it. But that's what he said was interesting. But it might come through a different way. It might come through in a way where I can understand it because I have the report right in front of me. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So they can use it. They just won't use it. And that's sad. And I also worked and I gave them information. I worked with an psychic network. And I actually gave on this young lady, I said that she was stabbed. I said that I cut her killer's hands really bad. There was actually a fight. I heard the song Wide Awake. What he kept doing was he stabbing her in the stomach and he thought she was dead. But he left a knife next to the actual where they were set. And she woke back up, grabbed the knife, and started stabbing, trying to stab herself. And he ended up pulling her out and shooting her in the head and killing her. But the thing about it, what's interesting, I saw a big cross and two small crosses, like to the right, a distance to the right. When they actually found the actual, they didn't find the body until the killer took them right to the body. He ended up taking them to the body. But the image they had on the police, on the actual TV, whenever they did that, the TV, they showed the cross, the big cross, and the two crosses, and said her body was to the right. I mean, I gave it exact information, but how are you going to find that unless that's in multiple places, that same situation? You know? So how are you going to find that person off an actual psychic's information? They probably never would have found that body. You know?
Mm-hmm. Did they at least give you credit for it when you done it?
No, the thing is, I worked with a psychic network, okay? A big
Okay.
network with hundreds of people, and we all kept pumping information. But I had another case where I kept seeing 7, and I kept hearing Bridget, and it was 2 young cousins that disappeared, 2 young girls, and they ended up finding them dead 6 months later in the town of 7 Bridges. But I didn't give them exactly where the bodies was, but I heard the town 7 and Bridges. I kept hearing that 7 and Bridges. I didn't know what it was. I didn't look myself. I should have looked it up. But they had a person actually doing it. They had a team that would actually take the information. If they kept seeing it repeated by all these psychics or all these mediums, they would take that information and think that would be good enough evidence and send it out to the police department.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Kind of like remote viewing, you know. The government used remote viewers. They put like 20 people in the room and they give them information, try to see where this guy is, you know, this guy, and they'd all write down what they're seeing and everything. They take all the sketches and they put them together. And if 10 of them had the same information and they're not by each other, they can't see stuff. If 10 had the same information, they would think that, okay, that's a right there's something we can go on. And
Yeah.
they found people from that before. They found them. So it works.
Yeah, the government does they do a lot of things that they don't give people credit for.
Oh yeah.
They like we all know there's UFOs out there and everything. And recently, they just started coming out saying, "Oh yeah, there is." Yada yada yada. But for the longest, they were trying to hide it all from us.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. What there's got, bro? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just common sense. You know what I mean? There's some very intelligent sources out there. You know, honestly, I think to myself, you know, am I getting information from God? Who am I getting? Am I getting from God? God give me. But the thing is, I prayed to God to give me this information. When I first started reading people, and I do readings too, but when I first started reading people, I started just remote viewing. I didn't know what it was. I would see objects, I would see things in people's homes hundreds to thousands of miles away. I'll say, for instance, okay, I see a beautiful a blue bird with yellow flowers around, right? And then all of a sudden, on my wall, there's a blue bird with yellow flowers all around. So the people on, you know, in another country,
Where?
another state,
My house.
they would say, hey, you know, how did you see that?
Okay, so what do I know?
But that's what remote viewing is, seeing things in another place that you have no knowledge of.
Yep.
Figure out works. Wow.
Yeah, remote viewing is pretty interesting.
Mhm.
I've done it a little bit. I have a couple friends that use it as well. It's pretty cool how it works too, because you can just you can be at your house and it don't matter where it is. Like
Right.
you can go to it's like you're there, but you're not.
Right.
It's crazy.
And that's what it is. That's why a lot of serial killers are attracted to mediums and psychics, because they know they can see things about them. It's interesting with the remote viewing, though. But when I first started, it was remote viewing. Then a lady wanted me to do a past life reading, so I just started using my mind. I started seeing things. I started seeing her back in the 1800s. I seen her with a wagon train, and all of a sudden I seen Indians coming and start chasing them, and she's on the wagon and she falls off and breaks her neck and dies. That's what I saw. Well, the lady says to me, "You're not going to believe this, but I've been to 20 doctors and I paid a lot of money and I can't figure out the pain in my neck, why I'm getting these bad pain in my neck, headache." So after I told her that she died in her previous life by breaking her neck, she never had the neck pain anymore. It just went away. Now, how many
Wow. That's crazy.
Wow.
Wow. That's so interesting, though.
How did she react to it?
Oh, she was thrilled to death, man. Thrilled to death.
No, I mean, that pain being gone, I could imagine.
Right?
And think about it, you know, I've read children, you know, I've read children that actually were murdered. I read this one little kid that was 3 years old, and this lady was watching me on this website before Facebook was even out there, called Unexplained. But this lady said, "Can you children?" I said, "Well, I can try. You know, I'm just having fun here. I'm not doing anything. I'm just having fun. I don't, you know, I'm just trying to learn what's going on with me. I don't know what's going on with me, but I'm excited about it because things are really happening." So she sent me a picture of the little girl. And then I just started zoning in. I kept seeing blood. I kept seeing a head injury. I kept seeing a curve. And I kept saying, "Steve, this is the same name." I kept bringing it up, but this name was really Steve. And then I gave her this information. She was shocked because her little girl was 3 years old. And this random guy named Steve came up, grabbed her, slammed her head on the side of the curve and killed her.
Aww.
Oh man.
So the woman was shocked, right? She's having a horrible life, and she lost her 3-year-old. She's staying in the house. She's not working. And I told her, "Listen, if you really want to know if this is," because she thought it was evil and negative what I was doing. She was raised that way. That if you really want to know if your daughter is around you, write down. If you want your daughter to understand or give you some kind of time. So she wrote down 5 things. And on number 3, she wrote down 3 hearts. Wrote down 3 hearts. And each heart represented 1 year of her age. But her mom did this in the shower. Every morning she would do the heart for her 3-year-old daughter in the shower with the steam, right? So I told her, I said, "Listen, I see 3 hearts. I see you're writing it in your shower when you take a shower for every year of your daughter's age. She was shocked because that was number 3 on her list. And she sent a picture to me. And it just did something to her where she actually started healing instantly.
Right?
And she ended up getting into a relationship. She ended up getting married. She ended up, and she went on with her life. That's how an actual reading body. I mean, I capture some real time voices. If you guys ever, and you heard when you hear a voice, that's a real time voice. See,
Yeah.
when I do these shows on Facebook, I will actually communicate with a loved one, and all of a sudden, real time voice will come in where they talk in real time, and I'll say, "Did you just hear him say that?" But nobody here, but I'm a female, right? And all of a sudden, I play the audio back, and there he is talking, saying, "I love you, Mom," or "I love you." It's crazy. But they are around. They can come through when they want, and they're strong enough. And I've learned over the years that if they died with a head injury, they usually won't come through an audio. Or if they have anything with pain or something like that, they won't come through strong on the audio. But other than that, though, man, they can come through on real time. Time. Which is amazing.
Yeah, years ago, it's probably 4 years ago. It's been about 5 years now. We was actually doing a podcast, and a lot of crazy stuff had happened that night. We were in the middle of a podcast. 2 of the investigators on our team had a spirit come to their house while we were on the podcast. But I have a daughter that was never born. She was actually a miscarriage. She's growing up in the afterlife. She hangs around me all the time. She's real fond of my youngest stepdaughter. But we were trying to wrap up the podcast so me and Justin could go over there and check on them. And Lauren, I think Jericho's probably listening too. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I was
but
listening.
They were listening in live on the podcast. And the little girl comes through. The little girl comes through and says, "Thank you." Plain as day. Like, she come through like I'd stepped out of the room for a minute.
I heard it
So I
live.
didn't hear it until the playback. Lauren was listening to it live, and Justin was trying to wrap up the show, and I was talking to the other 2 investigators, trying to figure out what was going on, tell them we're wrapping the podcast up, and we'll be over there. And then Justin come out white as a ghost, and he was like, "Some little girl just said thank you on the podcast."
Thank you for listening.
Yeah.
It was pretty crazy.
Like, she was like, "Thank you."
But speaking of that, Miss Joni in the chat said Rick did an EVP with me at my house via video chat. Was pretty awesome, and I've kind of had similar to that with Joni. Right after my dad passed away, I struggled with it because with my gifts and abilities, like, I was not able to make contact with my dad myself, and it was really bothering me. And there was a lot of guilt that I was carrying with it. And I reached out to Joni. I messaged her, and Mama Joe. I'm sorry.
She said
Joe.
He knows me as Mama Joe.
And I reached out to her, and I'm like, look, I'm really struggling with this guilt. And she's like, man, she said, I knew somebody was going to contact me because my dad had actually made contact with her just shortly prior to me calling her for advice and reaching out to her. My dad had made contact with her and had given her a message to give to me. So I thought that was pretty cool.
That is amazing. The thing is, I'm totally, there's so many people that can get messages. I mean, I have other friends that actually will set it when the spirit will come to them. And they'll describe how they died. They'll describe who they want them to communicate with. They'll give all this information. And the medium will put it on social media saying, listen, this person, he died in the Civil War, or blah, 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 or whatever. He'll come and give all this information. I never had that happen to me. See, I don't really call myself a medium or I call myself a seer because I see things. But the thing is about it, I think I have all the qualities of a psychic medium and a seer. And that's what I have. But I don't have spirits ever bother me unless I'm in that time where I need to communicate. And that's why I have a lot of direct connect information when I go to location. I'm communicating with them. They'll communicate back with me. But I never get bothered by spirits. They never bother me. And the reason why that is, when I first started out, I was getting sick going into all these homes. I go in and I measure homes for a company. I measure all these old homes from the 1800s. So I'll go in there and they're abandoned. And I go in there and I'm measuring and doors were slamming. I was hearing people run upstairs. I mean, I was to a point where I was making mistakes at my job where it was costing me a lot of money and almost lost my job because of it. So I just finally said to the spirits, please do not bother me. Don't even get in my mind. Don't get in my space. Let me do my job or my wife's going to kill me. You know what I mean? So they just started giving me space.
Catherine, do you need to go to the bathroom?
And that's what it was. They started giving me space. The next thing you know, I don't have any communication with any spirits, with any past loved ones. I can go to a big restaurant, or I can go anywhere, and I don't communicate with nobody. I don't see anything. I don't feel anything. That's my life. That's my time.
Uh-oh, where'd he go?
We lost you, Rick.
There he is.
There you are.
It went black for a second.
There you. You're black again.
He's into the void.
You entered into the void now.
We'll see if we can get him back on here, guys. Give us just a second.
The ghosties. He's talking about them ghosties.
He started talking about the spirits not bothering him.
Look
No.
at that.
And now they're bothering him.
It's kind of funny though that happened actually.
Yep, I kind of agree with him though.
It's a good shit.
I guess I'm kind of like a Hans 57 because
Right.
I don't really know what to classify myself as. I'm not really good at any particular certain area. They just hit me in different waves. Sometimes I see things, sometimes I hear things. Sandy said, guess they're letting him know who the boss is.
Right.
Rick faded into darkness on us.
Dark feeds
The
matter.
Oh my god.
Lord.
That's a whole nother topic, Robert. Not gonna go political, but that's a whole nother topic.
We can get him back on. Where'd he go? There he is.
There
Yeah.
you are.
It cuts off my camera.
Hmm.
The whole time I'm sitting here waiting for it to come on, but I looked down here and I had an X across the camera. So I had to go touch the camera and somehow it came back up.
That's weird. And it's funny because you were just talking about spirits not messing with you unless you talk to him. Then it's like, shoot, black.
I don't know if he was hearing me or if your camera was off.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm just like a Heinz 57 because for me, I get it in different ways at different times. And for me, I had to learn too. Like when I first started with it, you know, I'd be like in the shower and something would be trying to talk to me, and I wouldn't acknowledge it, and it'd like throw a shampoo bottle or something, and I'm like, look, this is too much. This is my personal space. Like, no. So I kind of had to do the same thing too, as far as like setting my boundaries and setting my, you know, when it was okay to try to communicate with me, when it wasn't, because in the shower that was just a little too much for me. And for me, like when I first started with mine, like I thought something was wrong with me too, and I kept telling Dwayne and Lauren, I'm like, do I need to go check myself into the mental hospital? Like, am I okay? Like, what's going on? Like, I was serious about it. Now I laugh and joke about it now that I understand it more. But at first, it was like, I think there's something wrong with me. I think I'm crazy. Like,
I still feel like that sometimes.
happening.
Like, I don't, like, was Sherika was talking about, like, them coming into the bathroom and whatnot. I don't think that spirits see us the way we see each other.
Okay.
That's just my theory. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think they see us in the form that we see each other. Like, I mean, yeah, we'll see them. I've seen a full body apparition with my own eyes. Of course, I didn't have a camera at the time because that's when they want to show themselves to you the most. And it was actually at that old Arkansas hospital that I was telling you about. On the second floor is the I think that's probably about the only time I could remember that I saw a full body apparition with my own eyes standing in the middle of the hallway. And then a bright white light flashes over his head, drops to the floor, and he disappears.
That's kind of interesting because I'm actually in my book, my sister story about my mom. And what was going on was she saw spirits, and she saw a spirit come up from the ground and then go back in the ground, a female with the white dress. So they do drop and disappear. So which is really, really cool.
Wow. See, I didn't you ain't even released the book yet. I know nothing about that. That's crazy.
So yeah.
That's crazy.
And this new book of mine, basically what it is my childhood. I'm actually going from each house I lived in. And in each house, something happened that's interesting. There's a story in every house. Either it was paranormal or was actually doing seances. I mean, my family was into spirituality, and we would do seances. And my brother was able to read spoons. My sister was able to hold objects in her hand and see where that object had been. So we had that. My uncle was a healer. He could actually heal you by touching you and saying prayers. So, I mean, in our family, we have Cherokee Indian down in the line. But the thing is about this, it's interesting how there's so much going on. There's so many people that have. I've witnessed some amazing stuff. I did a session with a guy, and he said, listen to me. I'm going to help you to actually see more. And he said, you're going to feel a prick in the back of your neck. I said, I'm going to count to 3 and you're going to feel it. And I counted to 3, 1, 2, 3. And I swear to God, I felt the prick in the back of my neck. And then all of a sudden he said, now what do you see in my room? And I said, well, I see a picture of you with a child and you're throwing them up in the air. He said, now you got it. And he turned and showed me the picture of him throwing his kid up in the air.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Isn't that cool? So
That
Pretty
is
cool.
there is people that are very gifted. This
Oh,
guy,
yeah.
same guy. I mean, I don't give his name out, but this is the same guy can actually look at an actual blender and say turn on, and it turns on. Or he can actually go touch a car. He just touch it with a hand and start the engine. So there are
Wow.
people out here with very, very, very amazing gifts. There was another guy that could actually, another friend of mine was very spiritual, and he actually would go to these sessions, and these sessions would be like, it would be just a private party. And there was this one guy would get up on the stage and he would ask people in the audience, what color would you like me to change the room to? And they'd say purple. And he would concentrate and he would change the whole room to purple.
Oh, that's
He
pretty
had
cool.
the ability to actually change aura colors for everybody.
Yeah, I forget what they call that.
Wow.
But it's pretty interesting. Some of the stuff is definitely unique.
And some people have the ability to turn off equipment too. I went into one house. I do measuring, like I said, for a company. And I went into this house and I walked in the bedroom. The girl was laying on a bed. I walked in the bedroom and I couldn't get the room measured because the computer kept shutting off as soon as I walked in that room. So I walked off and I told ma'am, I don't know if I can finish your job because I cannot get the computer to work in the bedroom, in your daughter's bedroom. She said, well, hang on a second. Let me get her out of there. So she got her out of there, and I went in there. The computer worked fine. Got it all measured. Came back out. I said, that's just really weird. I mean, she said, well, let me explain something to you. This is my daughter, and I'm going to show you something. And what she did is she had her walk toward me, and as soon as she left, the computer was working. She
Oh,
had
wow.
the ability to turn off equipment. So she can never go to a hospital. She can't go to anywhere like that because she shuts off equipment. That's what it is.
Oh,
Something about her.
wow.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
I've
Crazy.
seen them too where, like,
Wow.
they drain batteries and the what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Like where they drain the like watch batteries and they interfere with the electromagnetic fields.
They can do so many amazing things. They know ahead of time what you're thinking. They know ahead of time what they want, what you want them to do. I used to do practice in my garage. I would say, listen, I would sit here and I'd say, knock 3 times for me. I got the audio recorder going. I say, knock 3 times for me. I wouldn't hear anything. I played the audio recorder back and I heard 3 knocks, boom, boom, boom. And then I said, knock 3 times for me. So they knocked 3 times for me on the audio before I even asked the question.
Wow. Yep. I'm like that, like in us doing the ghost hunts and stuff too. I always feel like they know that we're coming before we come.
Oh, for sure.
We've had cases where, like, with private residents and stuff, they'll be like, we'll have it set to go, and they'll be like, oh, well, the activity increased, or this happened today, and it's like they know that we're coming before we get there.
Oh yeah.
And that's 100% correct. I'll tell you why that is. I used to do paranormal investigations out of my home. I went on a paranormal investigation, paranormal investigators, and they would tell me, okay, I'm going to go to this place. I'm going to go to the old mill. What do you see? What do you feel? And I would give them information. So one fall down the steps and hurt your leg. And she said, well, that's interesting. So she went and did the investigation before. She went up on the second floor, and she started coming, fell, and actually sprained her ankle. So it really happened. Now, that makes me wonder, am I actually putting that in the universe and making it? Or was I just seeing the future? Was I actually, and that's what was happening. I actually see things ahead of time before it even investigated. And interesting thing is they would send me an envelope. Can you please hear this and tell me what you think? And I would actually hear it. And I would hear a whole story. I would say, listen, they're saying, why the heck are you on top of the mausoleum? Why are you on top of the mausoleum? That's what I'm hearing, the spirit saying, right? And they're like, how the heck did you know that? We all got up on top of the mausoleum and sat down and looked over the graveyard. How did you know that? Because the spirit told me that. Isn't that kind of...
Oh, yeah. And there'll be one that I'll have Gawain tell you when we're not on air, because it's not one that we put out on air, but we had one similar to that where the spirits were communicating and told a story that's been documented that it actually happened the way that they said.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like on the past life, I'm kind of interested in that. Like, how would I set up a reading for you to do a past life reading?
Yeah, just send me a message. We'll be together. And usually what I do is I like to do past life readings. The best way to do a past life reading for me is a text reading. I'll tell you why. Whenever I'm doing a text reading, I zone in more, get more information. If I'm doing it live, something about the energy, it just doesn't give me enough information that it does with a text. For some reason, in more. Yes, I zone in more and I get more information with the text. But I've probably done about 300 actual past life readings. But I've done 11,000 loved one readings and readings, which is actually past life readings. A lot of people don't like to deal with it. And I'll tell you one thing. I've done a past life reading for a young lady. And I told her, I said, past life, you slit your wrist. You died because your husband never came back from the war. I saw her in a casket, slit her wrist. And what happened 3 months later, this poor girl got depressed over the reading and slit her wrist and tried to kill her.
Oh, goodness.
So, and she ended up contacting, sending me pictures that she got so depressed over the actual reading. And that scares me because I don't want to warn people. Listen, when it comes to life reading, you got to understand there's a lot of negativity in past life. A lot of negativity. There's a lot of death. There's a lot of misery. There's a lot of bad things. I rarely see good things. Always something that's really why you relive it. That's why a lot of years, around and it's scary. It's scary, but yeah, I don't do a lot of past life readings because of that situation. But some of them are remarkable, and some are like, holy crap. I read this one lady, and I said to her, I said, listen, I keep seeing Oakley. I got the date she was born. I got the date she died. I got all kinds of personal information about her, right? And then the lady ends up coming back and sending a video of her house. I said, listen, I keep seeing an actual portrait of Annie Oakley, 3 foot by 5 foot, in your living room. Like, holy crap. I said, you're an excellent gunslinger, and you're excellent with the gun and everything. So she ends up filming her house and showing everybody in the room. And she had that 3 by 5 portrait of Annie Oakley. She was an gun shooter. And all the stuff matched up. She got clothes of Annie Oakley. She always thought she had connection to Annie Oakley. I mean, this is amazing stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've always been curious about it. I've never had a past life reading. Doing this and doing the podcast, like I've come across a lot of people. I've had a lot of people do readings and connect with loved ones and all of that. I've never had a past life reading, and I was talking to Linda Bird about it because she's really big into past life, and I was like, I'm just curious, like.
Send me a message. I'll take care of you.
Awesome. I'd appreciate that. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I've had a brief one from a friend of ours. She actually had told me that in a past life I was an exorcist priest.
Oh, really? Wow.
And I was like, that's pretty cool.
Heck yeah.
That explains
I'm probably
why.
just like some boring
That explains
prairie
why.
kid or something.
That explains, like, when Sherika got took over at a cemetery here in Arkansas, me and Justin was able to pull her out of it. Or pull it out of her, I should say.
Yeah, I don't remember that night.
Yeah, Sherika completely lost consciousness on us that night. Collapsed in the middle of a dirt road. Mind you, at the time, this wasn't a proud moment in my ghost career, but we were actually in the cemetery without permission from the owner. At that time, that was back.
We have permission now.
We have permission now. I actually figured out, because I've been trying to get permission and figure out who the owner was. I know a lot of the history on the cemetery. It's a lot of darkness. A lot of satanic worshiping has went on there. Murders. Actually, Lauren's best friend was actually murdered at the pond right next to the cemetery.
There was another documented murder.
There was another documented murder, which we had no clue about. But I went out there, or we were out there investigating one night after she got took over, and thankfully she's gotten a lot better, a lot stronger at protecting herself. So she hasn't really had too many more issues with that individual at that cemetery. But we were just standing down there by the pond trying to communicate with Lauren's friend, and I start getting messages like directly to my mind, directly to my head, about this dude that liked to paddle little boys.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I told him before I was telling him what he was telling me, so this dude is a sick MFer. He paddles and rapes little boys and kills them, and I was all like, this dude is actually he's showing me he's paddling little boys. And so I guess Tim got curious, but you seen him at the last invest we did, little skinny dark-haired dude that was with us. He actually done some research after we left the cemetery that night and sent me an article where because I told him this guy goes by the Paddler, and he actually sent me an article from North Carolina where the dude was actually paddling kids. He had killed a little boy.
He done it down here too.
Yeah, he had killed a little boy, got off of the murder somehow, came to Arkansas, and started paddling and killing little boys here. And he got the nickname the Paddler in the article, and he actually got caught and convicted, if I remember correctly, in Arkansas for that same shit.
Yeah, it's interesting, as you bring that up. When I first started with my gifts and stuff, and I didn't know what was going on with me, but going to houses, and I would sense that the guy was a child molester. I feel it. So it got to a point where I was not feeling comfortable going into these houses, and that's why it was another reason why I was asking for this not to happen at my job, because it was affecting me. You know what I mean? And how am I supposed to say to my boss, "Hey, I think he's a child molester"? You know what I mean? How am I supposed to say that to my boss at the company? You know what I mean? You can't really do that. I probably would have got fired over it. You know what I mean? Unless, you know what I mean? But it's kind of sad that I was sensing these things and feeling these things. But how do I know I was actually picking up that person, or was I picking up somebody that lived there before, a male energy? You know what I mean, how do I know that? That's why it scares me that you say, okay, yeah, because sometimes my gift.
Okay, he's a pedophile, but nobody wants to be labeled a pedophile, and you definitely don't want to be like,
Yeah, you don't.
oh well, you're a pedophile, and I know this. Like, I mean,
See, I had got that on. I'm not gonna. Dwayne and Lauren will probably know, but I had picked that up on a family member. But instead of coming out and saying it, I just told him. I said he's hiding something dark.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, I said, it's going to come to light. Just remember that I said this.
Right.
And it wasn't maybe a couple of months later, it came out, and I'm like, okay, there's the validation that what I got,
Right.
For me, when it comes to stuff like that, I'm like, I try to find a way to word it, because I don't want to just come out and say it. But I try to find a way to word it to where, because sometimes what you get, like, you don't want to just put it out there. I feel like I'm violating somebody.
And you got to be careful with that, because you can ruin somebody's life. And the thing, whenever I do murders, I'll do an actual murder or something. I'll give the actual family the name coming to me. It doesn't mean that individual is the one that killed their daughter. I'm just seeing that name. I'm describing the person. The person could have been there to help her. You know what I mean? If I'm not seeing them actually murdering them, I'm just giving them information. I saw a guy with a goatee and a tattoo on his left arm. You know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. But that doesn't mean that he actually killed him. I said, listen, that doesn't mean he killed him. But some people have taken that information and spread it around like, oh my God, he killed her. So it's you got to be very careful.
Yes.
That. I was working on a case too. I had a psychic network myself on Facebook, working on a case. And then I was still working with the psychic network I was working with. And this lady was a profiler. Like, she would actually draw a picture of the killer. And what's
wow.
is she drew a picture of me as the killer of the young lady. And I said, you're not going to believe this. I'm working on the same thing, the same case. I'm working on everything. Are you going somewhere? Are you leaving? All right. Well, I got to get the air conditioner out of your back of your vehicle. Just bring it out and put it on there, okay? But I end up going, and I end up telling her, I said, listen, here's the picture of me. You just drew a picture. Now, she was picking up that I was connected, which I was connected because I was doing research my own with my own team. Mm-hmm. But I didn't kill the person. But still, that's what it was. And this was all over the news. My picture was all over the world.
Oh, no.
The news stations got a hold of it because she was pretty good at sometimes. Then I told her, I said, listen, this is bad. I said, you got to be careful who you're sending a picture out. If you do not know that individual and you don't 100% know that they actually killed the person,
you can't put that out there.
You don't do that. It's really. So I made her look really like she actually checked herself before she said anything out. You know what I mean? Because it's dangerous. You don't want to ruin somebody's life.
And like I've had many gifted people, we get things wrong sometimes, or like her, she seen your face, she drew you, she knew you was connected, but if, like you said, if you don't know 100% certain that that's the one that killed them, or whatever, you can't put that out there. Sometimes we get things and it's connected, but it's not the exact person. So
I did that. I break it. I'll figure it out. Oh man! I bought this air conditioner. What did I get to the plug? I closed it. Love you. See ya. I closed it on the actual part.
You should just be able to straighten it back out.
Oh, I hope I didn't break anything. Hey, doggone it! I can't believe I did that. That's what happens when you're rushing to try to get on a paranormal show.
You want to know what they found in Brisbane?
Man, and you were talking about being engulfed in the paranormal and stuff. For the longest time, I was the same way. like the paranormal was me. Like I felt like I was living, like I was in a part, like it was, like I was a ghost almost, like I was them. And so we stepped back for a while, and then started going again. Of course, COVID happened. That was the thing. That really slowed us down and halted a lot of our investigations. Um, but we just recently started kind of picking back up. So I understand that, like, and it takes a toll on you too, and people don't realize that. And actually, I know a lot of people they either have a hate or love relationship with Zach Bagans. And you were talking about the whole ghost hunters thing. Well, for me, Ghost Adventures is actually what got me started or interested in the paranormal, I should say. And he actually, I was watching a live feed about with him one time, and he was addressing this exact thing. Basically, how he put it was, a lot of people see what we do on these live feeds, see what we do, whatever the case may be, TV, podcasts, but you don't realize how draining and how much energy it takes and how much different it is until you're at these locations over and over and over again, and you're just communicating with all these spirits, and you're putting out different spiritual, you're mixing your spiritual energy with their spiritual energy. So you're at these locations over and over again, and after a while it just starts to take a toll on you overall as well.
And that's why I personally actually calmed down on the actual ghost hunts and investigations. I needed time with my family because my son has brain cancer, and we're trying to work with that. But yeah, I had to calm down, man, because it was taking my time, and I couldn't just go out and drive. And the thing is, I work my day job usually till like 4 or 5. Then I head out 4 or 5 hour drive to someplace. It was killing me, man. It was really hard. And then you don't sleep when you're doing this stuff. You never sleep. You're up all night. You know what I mean?
Energy drinks and fast food.
Yeah, and I was doing back-to-back investigations. I wasn't getting any sleep. Then I was driving 4 hours back home. It was just dangerous for me. It got to a point where you just got to take a break. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep, and that's where Dwayne was at a point, like even Lauren, he was nonstop. Like, if we wasn't on an investigation, he was setting the next one up, or it was, and I'm like, look, we've got kids we got to take care of. We have a personal life that we have to manage. I mean, he still worked every day, but if he wasn't working or investigating, all of his time and energy went into something with the paranormal. And I'm like, it's fun. It is. Like, I enjoy it. But, outside of that, you have a personal life. You have family. You have stuff that you have to attend to and balance it. And it's easy to be consumed by it.
And it's hard because sometimes I'll work 60, 70 hours in a week. Mm-hmm. So I don't have time. I don't have time to do readings. I don't have time for nothing. I got to work. I got to pay bills like everybody else. I hardly ever get paid for readings. I once in a while I might get a reading. They charge $50 for private readings, but I might get like 1 or 2 a month. I'm not pushing that out there. I work my day job. That's where my but I do it once in a while. I'll do it. I'll do a lot, whatever. But other than that, that's just not my. But I'm kind of shocked with how many people charge so much money. It just blows my mind. I just watched $345 for 45 minutes. I'm like, you got to be joking. That's
right?
Money for somebody that's barely making it.
Yeah, and it's like they're basically draining people because they have gifts. At the end of the day, they forget that if it wasn't for God, if it wasn't for the higher power, whoever they believe in, we all believe in a higher power, regardless of what we believe in, that we wouldn't be able to. We're supposed to help people with our gifts, not abuse them and take advantage of them. And that's just my opinion. And a lot of these proclaimed mediums and stuff, they do what we like to call, as my friend Chuck would say, fishing for information.
They do.
They fish for a lot of information from the person, and then they flip it and they're like, "Oh, this is what's happening." I'm all, "No, that's not how true psychics do it. They don't sit there and fish for tons of information to turn around and feed back to you." That's one of the best ways to tell how if people are really legitimate or not in that sense is by the amount of information they're like, "Oh, what's this?" Or like, "Do you know a person that starts with, or somebody's name that starts with L?" That could be a million things.
Sarah, and that's the thing about it, is what's interesting. Watch this on TikTok. TikTok's crazy over readers, and they have people that are super huge followers, and they'll come on. I'm getting the name Sarah. This person had a heart attack. This person, loved their fingernails. This person, this. And you have to connect everything to this, and this is your loved one coming through. And then they'll have tons of people giving them tons and tons of gifts, and all of a sudden they'll have like 50 people in the chat room that connected all of that stuff. So it's like. Then they'll have, okay, so I'm going to pull up Denise. So all that made sense? Yes, it did make sense. And then they'll say, well, okay, let me keep on, see if I can get more information. Well, they can't get any more information for Denise, for their loved one. So they say, well, it must not have been for you. And they kick them out and grab somebody else. That's what they're doing. They're just building all that money. People are giving them gifts, and they're taking advantage of people. That's what. And the real reader, I do readings different than most people out there. As soon as I say, listen, I need a past loved one's first name. And I did readings for you guys before last time I was here. But I said, I need the first name of the past loved one. That's how I connect, okay? You don't tell me, and I offer everything I see, hear, and feel. And that's how a reader should be. They shouldn't throw out all this random stuff or all this crap and then have hope that somebody's going to latch on. You know what I mean? I just like that kind of reading. But, I have seen some people that actually do that and do really connect, and they bring the person on and they afterwards. So there is some gifted people out there, but there's a lot of people that are con. And you'll watch it, sit there, and I'll watch the sitter. I'm like, this guy asked 50 questions. He still hasn't hit nothing with that.
Right.
I'm not going to mention no names, but we actually had
some people like that on our show.
We actually had a guest on our show. And this dude, I didn't know this prior to booking this guy. He was getting picked on by a lot of people. And so I kind of felt bad for the guy, not knowing much about him. I'm a soft-hearted person most of the time. So I agreed to bring him on the show. He was talking about, I was watching one of his lives. He was talking about being suicidal after being bullied and yada, yada, yada. Well, come to find out, actually, Chuck was in the chat that night. And
long story short, he had gotten exposed on
Dr.
Phil television for
I know who he is.
A fake.
With this guy. Let me tell you something. When he first came out, he thought, a true gift from God. Okay, true gift from God. And the thing is, I would listen to his shows. People would come on, and he was like, "Okay, I see your brother is dead. He died. His name is John." And the lady's like, "I don't have a brother. I'm sorry. I don't have a brother." No, hang on. Now I know I'm correct. It's John, and he died. Well, hang on. Maybe I'm getting the name mixed up. Maybe it was Tim. She said, "I'm sorry, but I don't have a brother." Oh, you are stupid. You're telling me you don't have a brother?
Yeah.
Get off of my show. Boom. Then he brings on somebody else. And I watched him on Dr. Phil, which is funny. And so all of a sudden, and he's still doing readings on Facebook. And I'm still shocked that people still follow him when he can't get nothing right. Not one thing. And he's
When we had him
$1,000 a reading.
When we had him on this show, he was telling Lauren about her boyfriend. And at the time, Lauren didn't have a boyfriend.
You're muted, Lauren.
And Lauren was all like, "No, I don't have a boyfriend." And he's like, "Yeah, you do. He may be a secret boyfriend, but you have a boyfriend."
I got you.
And Lauren's like, "No." And he pretty much done her the same way as, just, "Yeah, you do. You might not know it, but you do." And Lauren's like, "Whatever, dude."
No,
I guess it must be invisible because I don't see nobody here, but okay.
Now, mind you, because he had been on, like you said, he had been talking shit to everybody about they're calling them liars and all this on our show. And so I start reading him. I'm not like.
He didn't like
I'm-
that either.
Well,
we had a medium.
So, yeah, we had a
friend
medium
that
friend
was
on that was telling me
reading
what to
him.
tell him.
and telling Dwayne.
And
what
he
to
got
say.
real defensive whenever I
Mhm.
started throwing this out there to him. Like, I was like, you got health problems? Well, you got asthma or something to do with the chest? Oh, no, I don't have none of that. I don't have none of that. And he was all getting real aggressive and
You're kinda
defensive. You
sounding
could tell. You could tell that he did by the way he was acting. He was just so aggressive coming back at me because he had told this dude that he didn't have no psychic abilities and he didn't know nothing. So
And Chuck
he-
is very, very gifted.
yeah,
I mean,
so he
he's-
told me to start telling him, just like he was telling me what to tell him because he was reading him, and I was acting like it was me reading him. It was the funniest thing ever.
I kind of felt bad, but I didn't at the same time because, like, he
Dude
was,
I'm a
He was very
excuse my language. He's a
disrespectful.
douchebag.
Oh, he's very mean. He treats people like crap. He's horrible.
Yeah.
And I watch
he won't-
other readers do the same thing. Other readers will come on. I watched another reader that's pretty popular. It's been out there for a long time. He does connect a lot, but sometimes when he connects, he tries to make you accept it. If you don't accept it, he treats you horrible. He treats you horrible. Treats you really bad, and he says, no. No, if you're not going to actually listen to me, I want you out of the. Get out. I don't want you here. I'm like, and I put a note on. I said, dude, why? Never ever talk to a sitter that way. That was disrespectful what you did.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's us. Like, we have people that reach out to us and stuff. And mind you, there is some crazy people out there. Being a paranormal investigator, I'm sure you're aware. We get crazy people that message us.
Mhm.
Like, crazy people, like, they're like,
Too. They're great. And they want me
yeah.
to, I can feel, oh, I got a demon attached to me. I have a demon inside of me, and blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah. I'll read them. I'm like,
There's demons at my house, and I'm
You have to-
scared.
mental issues. You know
I'm
what
like, you've been watching too much Ghost Adventures.
I'm saying?
Or a lot of times,
But
like you were saying, a lot of times, like, it'll be mental issues or it'll be
drugs, drug related. Yep, that's a big thing too.
And
Or
unfortunately,
or
we got
medic-
to, yeah,
Yeah, we do.
got to where when we first started, we didn't have any screening processes for private residents. Like, they'd reach out to us and, okay, let's go. And after we got some pretty bad private residence cases, I was like, no, I think we need to start screening these people a little better and figuring out what we're getting into before we get into it.
Oh yeah.
So now we always, it's usually like me or Lauren, one will contact them beforehand, and we have a series of questions that we ask and go through and try to assess what we're getting into before we just show up.
Yeah, you have to, because it's scary out there, and
Yeah.
everybody's too happy out here. But everybody's too happy, so you got to be very careful.
Now, one of my favorite cases that we actually did do, it was
Oh,
probably
Lord.
one of the
Oh
worst
my Lord,
cases that we took.
Lauren, you know which one she's talking about already.
But I
Oh, the
don't
shit
think
shed?
there was
Yeah,
as much paranormal as there were mental issues. But the fact that, like, just us showing up and investigating and talking to her and explaining things to her gave her a peace of mind and helped her so much that it ended up being one of my favorite cases that we've ever done. But it wasn't as much paranormal.
We're talking about different
activity.
stuff then.
Now we're talking about the one in Fayetteville when it was snowing.
Springdale. Yeah, she's
Springdale.
talking about the same one. This one that she's talking about, me and Lauren had a different perspective of this location.
They didn't, like I said, it was probably
was
one of the
literally-
worst cases, but it was my
It was
favorite.
literally a shed in the backyard. This lady had us convinced that it was a house. We get there, and it was a little she shed
She slept in the shed in somebody's backyard.
in the backyard, and like she had like 3 or 4 dogs in there.
We couldn't all fit in there at one time.
Mind you, it was snowing on our way up there, or sleeting, and there was ice on the road, so it was already dangerous to go up there. But we went up there to help out because that's how we are. And while we're investigating, the dog's like throwing up on the bed. They're crapping in the doorway. It was like Sherika helped him. Yeah, Sherika, we did help him still, but that was probably like physically one of the worst private residents we've ever done.
But I mean, we really helped her. We really gave her a peace of mind.
Yeah, we did help her a lot.
Just her mental state with it all.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we're still there to do a job, and I'm not trying to judge nobody by no means, but that was a health hazard.
It was one of the roughest physical investigations that we did, but it still ended up being one of my favorite just because of how much we helped her and how much a difference we made in her life just because we showed up and tried to help.
Helping people don't always have to be paranormal.
Yeah, you got that right. Listen, I got to get off. I have to get this air conditioning fixed and set this up my daughter before she dies of a heat.
Oh.
But I
appreciate you coming on, though.
We definitely appreciate you coming on. If you want, take a second, tell everybody how they can find your books, reach out to you, whatever information you want to give them.
Yeah, about this awesome new book too.
Yeah, I think I'm about to get it.
Yeah, the third book will be coming out on exactly 2 more people to read. Yeah, you can get all my books on Amazon and Kindle. I'm going to be taking all of my books on Kindle, and I'll tell you why I'm doing it, because you have Prime for Amazon, you can read it free. So they've been reading my books for free on Kindle since I've had them out. So I'm off Kindle, off this new book, and they have to purchase it to read it. So that's how it is. I'm not getting anything out. When they get it for free, they get it for free. They can't write a review. They can't do anything. They won't write a review or nothing. So I'm losing out on a lot. I usually get like $5 for a Kindle. So, if you take hundreds and hundreds of people as getting it for free, I'm losing out a lot of money.
Right.
It's going to be on my new book. I won't have it on Kindle because I can't afford that, because everybody will go get it for free. So, but you can get it on Amazon or Kindle, and you can actually purchase it by contact on Facebook, and I can send it to you, copy.
All right. Sounds good.
Well, there you go. And definitely be on the lookout for his new book when it comes out. Go purchase it. Like you said, his other 2 books are already on Amazon and Kindle, so you can go check those out as well.
Buy it from Amazon.
Buy from Amazon. Support him. It takes a lot of time and effort in these books. Trust me, I know. I'm trying to. I started working on one, then I stopped. I plan on getting back to it. But again, thanks for coming on and hanging out with us, Rick.
I appreciate it.
Oh, for sure. It's been a pleasure. We'll definitely have to bring you back on before we sign out for the night here. I do want to tell everybody that we will have an investigation next Saturday night. We will be live feeding. Actually, Rick, it'll be that location again that we just went to last time, because it's the first time in 3 years that we've got to investigate it. It was shut down for 3 years due to COVID. So we booked it 3 times, once a month for the next 3 months. It's always an amazing location. Then Sunday night, of course, we'll be back on Darknite Radio with Mr. Matthew Bennett. He'll be joining us at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. We'll be live with that. So y'all stay on the lookout. Darknite's coming back better than ever. Like I said, go check out Rick's books. Give him a purchase. If you like the book, review it.
Pure unity, guys. Pure unity. We gotta stick up for each other.
You got it. Have a good night, folks.
Yeah, everybody. We love y'all. Good night.
Bye, guys.